Welcome to Podcast Done For You, the show where we make it as easy as possible for you to make the right choices to advance your podcasting career. So let's get started on the show. The cascading impact of podcasts, why they deliver more than what you actually thought of. Welcome to another episode of Podcast Done For You, the show where we're going to give you some invaluable information about podcasting that we hope you take on board, because it is an incredibly powerful tool and underestimated in the value that it brings, because it's more than just the podcast itself. Now, what I get from a lot of people is they focus on the actual downloads. And while that's important, it's not everything. So I want to also remind you that as we go into this and why it's not everything, I want you to make sure that you check out the show notes for a link to a document that's going to help you understand this in even greater detail. So come back to that later on, but right now, what do I mean by more than the actual downloads? Well, very simple. The downloads, while they're important and you want people to listen to your full show, ultimately, what's a podcast about? The podcast is about you demonstrating your expertise and saying, hey, look at me, come to me, I'm the expert in this area. Do people have to listen to the full podcast episode in order to do that? No, they don't. You can use parts of the podcast in multiple ways to demonstrate that, and yes, feed it back to the full episode, but it's not always critical that they listen to the full episode. So what do I mean by that? Well, think about it. Podcast can allow you to create things for social media. That's one point. A whole lot of material. Out of any episode that you've got, I would challenge you that you could create at least 6 pieces of content from an average 15-minute podcast to go on social media. You can post that on all the channels that you care to imagine, whether you're using video, audio, or just the transcripts, or even with images. All of those things can happen as a result of you having the podcast. The great thing about it is it's time efficient. You don't have to do very much, because once you've actually spoken the podcast, there are tools that will deliver the other things for you very, very quickly. In fact, if you're smart about it, you get someone else to manage those tools so you don't have to worry about it, and they're all just given to you so that it's very easy to post. But social media is just one outlet. And I want to put YouTube as a secondary one, because most people, when they're thinking about social media, are thinking about LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok, but they don't tend to put YouTube under that umbrella. I'm going to tell you that YouTube is absolutely critical to your podcast journey. Remember that you can post your podcast into YouTube podcasts, just audio based. That's a little aside for you. YouTube is the second largest search engine outside of Google, which is why Google owns it. So people will continue to find your content if it's meaningful and the headings are meaningful and the text around it is meaningful. They'll continue to find it long after you've put that episode out. So that's all important. But here's the thing that you can do with YouTube. You can put your reels on YouTube and you can promote them separately as well to draw people into you and the other things that you've got. It's a super important part of what you do. And again, lots of these things can be done in a very efficient manner, so you don't have to sit there and do it yourself. Want to know more about that? You can ask me at any point in time. We're happy to fill you in on what it takes to get that done. I wanted to really dedicate this episode to showing you that there is so much more to the podcast, and all we've just done is touched on social media. Let's go past social media and YouTube, and let's start looking at your website. Now, there's lots of different ways you can integrate a podcast into your website. The obvious way is you embed the podcast itself on a dedicated page on your website. You have a little heading on the top of your homepage and says, go here to go and listen to our podcast. That's great, but that's only one part of the equation. Have you thought about the fact that some episodes of your podcast would fit beautifully with your about section of your website, on your homepage of your website? And I'm talking whether it's be a full episode or a partial episode, or even just an article that relates to it and then refers back to the main episode. Think about your frequently asked questions section of your website. Great place for you to refer to different episodes or parts of episodes of the podcast. Then there is another space that you must use, which is your blog area. Now, anyone that's in SEO is going to tell you that you need quality content. Well, the great thing about the podcast is you can easily generate a transcript. From the transcript, you can easily generate multiple articles that are quoting what you have said in the podcast, adding a few other things in there, and bang, you've got an excellent article that is drawing people in who are searching for things that you've talked about in that, and it's utilizing your genuine quotes from the podcast. Nice and easy. Again, if you use an AI, it can help you generate that based purely on your content. It's important that you do it based on your content and not allow it to go and resource something else. Just keep it to that, and you won't have any problems with Google and other things identifying it as being an AI, because you want to train it to write in your style. And again, it's using all of your stories and all your actual content that you've spoken on the podcast. So now we've got the website ticked off. Well, let's go a little bit further than that. Here's the next one. Newsletters. Have you got a newsletter? Have you got a database that you're sending it to? Podcast is going to generate great amounts of content for that. Even if you're just telling people, hey, I've got a new episode that's just dropped. Here's a couple of quotes from it. Go check it out from here. Again, whether they watch or listen to the full episode does not matter, because you've got in front of them and you've shared some information and some knowledge with them. All of this is making you easier to share with, whether it's with colleagues, whether it's with peers for clients, whether it's referring it on to new people. All of those things are much more possible as a result of you having the podcast. And yes, there's a huge advantage to your existing client database. Send them a newsletter separately or some emails with some value at it and saying, hey, we don't get to see each other that often or as often as I would like. So in between, check out this episode of the podcast. Now let's move on from newsletters. Email blasts. Are you doing those? Now they're a little bit different to newsletters. They can be really a regular thing that you're sending out. It could be that it is just about a specific idea or an issue. Again, generate that from material from your podcast. Moving on to the next one. What about very specific email sequencing? Are you using your CRM in your business well? Are you using it so that you can train people to get to know you before you actually have a conversation with them? As one example of an email sequence you could create. Imagine this. You connect with someone on LinkedIn. They agree to meet with you. Prior to the meeting, you say, hey, looking forward to catching up with you. In order to get a little bit more background information on me, you might want to check out this episode of my podcast. And there's also this other episode, which I think might relate more to what you and I are going to talk about. Fantastic. Nice and easy. Gives them an opportunity to get to know you. Adds real value. Costs you nothing to do because you've already got the podcast. Now, what about direct messaging? Have you tried that? Imagine if I send you a message that says, hey, Jim, you might not remember me that well, but I noticed that you are an expert in this particular area. I recently recorded a podcast about this. I'm really interested in your feedback on it. Here's the link. Hope you don't mind if I get back to you in a week and ask you what you thought. Now, here's the thing. Jim may reply, he may not, but he's got to see the message and he's got to know you in a little bit, and it's broken down the doors without you selling to him. Now, you can stagger that message in two, by the way. You don't have to send it to him in one go. You can start the conversation first before you actually send him the link, but you get the idea. It enables you to break down doors and get to people you might not otherwise have got to. It's an important part of what I say is the cascading effect of podcasts. Now, remember as well that just because you put out an episode on this today doesn't mean you can't refer to that podcast episode that was recorded 6 months ago or 12 months ago if it's relevant in a conversation, or it might be relevant to an individual. Utilize it as much as possible. There's also an opportunity for you to do other things with the podcast. So let me just rattle off a few here for you. There's articles for other people. You might want to submit them. There's an opportunity for you to do something in the media. They always love the fact that people have got a podcast. It gives you credibility immediately. So why not approach some local media organizations and say, hey, I'm an expert in this area. I have my own podcast. If there's ever something that I can help you with, let me know. Use Source Bottle to put yourself out there looking for people who are looking for people to be experts in particular media. That's another avenue of which you can explore. What else is the podcast going to be used for? Well, downloads. Imagine this. I might even try this as a result of this episode. I've listed a whole lot of ideas in this episode about what you can use a podcast for. We could just create that into a download. So you've now got an opportunity to collect names and data from people because they're interested in what it is that you've given them. It can be just a collection of stuff from this episode that you're talking to, or it could be previous episodes. You could use it across multiple episodes and create a download. Lots of ways that you can do that. Let's take it a step further. What about creating a learning program from it? Put a whole series of your podcasts together. You could break them up into little bits, or you could simply use the material from it and ask an AI to help you create a learning program. That learning program could be something that could even be paid for by people. Here's another one. What about a book? Have you thought about writing a book? You can use multiple episodes of a podcast to essentially create the basis of a book for you. If you already have a book, have you thought about using the podcast as adding extra value to the book? So here's the problem with a book, by the way, that you can only talk about your book for a short period of time before people go, yeah, I know you've got a book. But if you're adding value to individual chapters of that book on a consistent basis, no problems telling people, by the way, you can also read more in the book. So here's the thing. A book only allows you to say so much. A podcast allows you to say more and go deeper and add more value much more easily as an add-on to the book. You could even consider, if you've already written a book, by the way, why not simply put out a little extra one-pager that says to them, hey, if you would like to get more value out of this book in the future, why not check out the podcast? Here's a bunch of QR codes that relate to some of the chapters that are already in there, which brings me to the next point with the book. If you want to republish it, if you're a self-publisher and that's nice and easy, why not include QR codes linking you back to podcast episodes? So there's just another way of doing it. There is so much that you can do with podcasts, and I'm telling you, that's not an exhaustive list that we've got here right now. In fact, if you've got more ideas that you want to share with us, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear how else you've thought about using podcasts, because there's a myriad of ways that you can do it. I do want to tell you as well that it is a great source for you educating even your internal resources, your staff, getting to know you better, getting to know the way you think, getting to know what value you offer, the stories that you might not have shared with them. And that can be for present team and future team. Imagine you bring someone on board today and you've got 20, 30, 50, 100 episodes of a podcast where you've been sharing stories. The new people now can listen to those podcasts, and you're not going to make them listen to all of them if you've got 100, but they can certainly listen to some of the episodes to understand more about the business, understand about the stories that they can then share as part of what they might be doing and interacting with your clients or potential clients, depending on the role that they have. It's a fantastic tool, particularly for sales. It's also a great tool if you're working towards selling your business at some point in time. What an amazing asset to have of a podcast that is delivering so much material about the way the business has operated, the way the business has thought, so that someone new can carry that forward. Yes, you might even introduce them at some point and let them take over the podcast. That could be part of the sale process as well. But certainly capturing the way you think, the way you work, and the value that you've offered, having that becomes a real asset for your business as part of the sale process as well. So there you go. There is a whole lot of things that a podcast delivers for you, more than just how many people have actually listened to it. And please, a reminder, and I'm sorry to upset those people that are sending me emails on a regular basis about this. It really doesn't matter how many people are listening to your podcast. Don't get caught up in that being such a big thing. If you're one of those people that is saying, I can promote your podcast and I will get you 5,000 downloads this month, please. They're not real people. They're not authentic. That's not my key target audience. I've never seen anyone be able to deliver that consistently. And by the way to test that out is very simple. if you end up with with testing that out for a month or two, then see what happens when you switch it off. Because if all of those 5,000 people that have downloaded disappear, shows you they weren't really in your actual audience in the first place. But if you make sure that you've got downloads in your show notes that are going to be there for your audience to want to grab onto, then surely if they fill that in and they take that download and you've got their data, and then you encourage them further and integrate with them further, and you can see that they're genuine email addresses, there's something in there. And that's something that a podcast is going to give you in helping generate leads and building your business way more than just about any other marketing that I can think of. So that's what the importance is of the cascading effect. There is a bunch of ideas, as I said there. I welcome more of them in your comments if you can think of others. I will take my own advice and I'm going to put that into a download for you to access as part of the show notes. So you've got something to think about, the great cascading effect of podcasts. This episode, of course, is brought to you by my team at podcastdoneforyou.com.au. We do podcasts for businesses, so we make you the expert. So all you have to do is get out there and be the expert and allow people to come and just love who you are and want to do business with you. That sounds like you? Well, check the show notes out for details on how to get in touch with me. Until next time, this has been the Podcast Done For You show. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and please share it with others, and we welcome your comments so we can cover more things off in coming episodes. Until next time, I'm Anthony Pearl. Look forward to your company then.